that is being recovered from corrupt individuals, will use it as a government to construct a diagnostic center at Kerrytown, so that our people cannot be traveling to China or Ghana, for medical purposes. But up to this time, Victor, Fabian, do we have a foundation started there? There's no physical evidence.
So where are these monies?
Fine. The reason being, the money is always paid into the consolidated fund, one pot, and they will just take it to do other things. So what we want to see, if the people are to benefit from the actions of the commission or in the fight against corruption, this is why many times the people ask the question, what are we benefiting as a people in the fight against corruption? Oh, they are saying the ACC is doing well in the fight against corruption, but that is not translating, into the lives of us Sierra Leoneans. That is what people are saying. So, what we are saying, the commission need to recommend to government, even though your legal mandate is to present, but to give credence or credibility to the work that you are doing, for people to see really that your work translates into their life. Recommend to government that this money that we are presenting, let's have a kind of trust fund, or even within the one port, which is an account, we have this funds being ring-fenced, that all monies gotten back from corrupt individuals are put into this one, but it's ring-fenced, and this one will be used, for developmental purposes that will better the lives of Sierra Leoneans. But because that is lacking.
But the money, the money that has been brought back into the system, these were, if you trace the problem back to when the Corrupt Act was identified, these were sent or disbursed to address certain problems. So some of those developmental activities were put on hold or stalled because of corruption. What happened to recovering that money if, for example, Mr. A stole money that was meant to procure drugs for the public health sector, using the money to go back now and procure the drugs that were not procured, using the recovered money for its intended purpose it was stolen initially?
Thank you very much. That could be something that you could do, and then you can pinpoint that, yes, we are fighting against corruption. We had some corrupt individuals. There's money, we are taken back from them, and now we've built the hospital that this was meant for. We've procured the drugs that this was meant for. Now also, like you, according to the law that we have now, an additional 10% of the money stolen is being paid by the individual. So that 10% is there also floating. You understand? So if
not
we
necessarily floating per se, the 10%, because it depends on when the Corrupt Act was done, the value of the money then, and the value of the money at the time when it was repaid. So a common example could be if the money was meant to build a school, and then 10 years later, you're caught, let's say 4 years later, you're caught, you pay back. The cost of a bag of cement then and the cost of a bag of cement now isn't the same. So the 10% itself cannot just be dished out to do something else, when in actual fact, depending on when the act took place and when the money was recovered, there could be a gap to be covered in the value of the money in funding the intended project.
Yeah, you're quite right, Amphibian. Yeah? But no matter what, there could be still, some amount of money, even if you plow back those money into certain activities, but still there could be certain amount that could be used for maybe some community development or this Kerrytown thing that we're talking about. Now, one thing we should understand in this asset recovery thing, it's not just from the resources or the monies recovered from people. Now, sometimes when they take individuals to court, and then people are fined certain amount of money, and then they could not pay, they confiscate, the court order confiscation, and then they can liquidate those properties, and then the money goes back into the consolidated fund. So those money from the commission, from the courts, even at international level, asset recovery makes provision for you to get back assets, movable assets, monies from even overseas back into the country. And so if we are able to really maximize, the asset recovery regime, by having in place proper policies and proper laws, we would be able to make so much money from recovered assets. Now, there was an example in Koroma. ACC did an investigation, and then there was an hotel in Koroma, and they asked, who is the owner of this hotel? Nobody came out to say he or she is the owner because they believe it's corruption related. So what happened? The court order for the confiscation, and then the hotel is still there. And now, currently, the hotel is being used as a secretariat of the Koroma University. And even some people, in the government arena, even within the, don't even know about the outcome of that institution. So if of that building. So if there is transparency and accountability in the process, people should know, the people of Sierra Leone should know. So now we've confiscated this property, and now we've leased this property, for example, to the Koroma University, if it is being leased, for X amount of money. So where is that money going to? So the money we are talking about that could be ring-fenced or a trust fund developed is not only from those recovered by the Anti-Corruption Commission, but all other ones from the courts, and overseas, and all of that. So all of those monies could go into that trust fund, and we could use it for these other developmental activities. It's
unfortunate that the ACC rep that was invited hasn't shown up, because these are questions that they also need to answer. But quickly, before we go to Studio 2 for sports, in 2018, when President Bio won the elections for his first term, during the inauguration ceremony, he said he was going to wage 3 wars. Amongst those 3 was corruption. So far, so good. How would you assess the president as an individual, his fight against corruption, how he has handled some of these corruption-related allegations and issues connected to corruption? How would you assess the president as an individual, his fight against that war he said he was going to wage against corruption?
Yeah, thank you. The president is very, very key in the fight against corruption. That is why when we're talking about institutions, that is just one aspect, but also we have what we call the political will in the fight against corruption. Because normally in the fight, we consider 3 wills that are very key: the political will, the institutional will to fight corruption, and the people's will. So the president, when you talk about the political will, is the first person that we consider. And like you said, he made that those pronouncements when he took up office to wage war against corruption. Yeah? And the president...
Has he been waging the war?
The president needs to do more. Yes, to an extent, I would say, because like the ACC, is doing its work, and they're having some support, from the government in terms of doing their job. Though they need more resources to cover, the entire Sierra Leone and make a meaningful impact. But the president needs to do more in the fight against corruption, because the president is the fountain of honor, is our beacon of hope. So if we are talking about fighting corruption that has been a menace in Sierra Leone, he has to stand tall, to say or do certain things in terms of fighting corruption.
What more is he to do?
For example, some time back, we had this issue of the audit report, the Auditor General and Deputy being suspended in relation to audits being conducted in the office of the President. And there are some findings, and the problem, according to what was happening, is the fact that the Auditor General contacted a third party, you understand, to verify certain receipts without going back to the client, that is the office of the President, which they say is a breach of protocol or whatever. That aside, I'm not questioning that one, because they've gone through all the processes and they say the lady is guilty and all of that. But what we are saying, after that one has been done, but the fact still remains that there was an identification of a fake or a forged receipt. So what has been done to go back? Let's forget about liar and a deputy, and the breach of protocol. But let's look at that issue. So the president could have said, okay, yes, Lara violated protocol, let's accept that. But I want to see investigation being done within the office so that we'll identify whether or not receipt was really forged, and those responsible would be brought to book. Wow. And once you stand tall in taking some of those actions, you know, it will go a long way for you to put, you know, action into your proclamation as a president. We know that the president has a lot to do. That's why in issues you have like advisor to the president on disability issues, on gender issues, but we don't have advisor to the president on corruption per se. So the commission, yeah, is relied upon to even advise the president. So even when the commission is presenting to the president like checks, yeah, based on the law, but the commission could not just say that, yeah, our mandate stops here, just for us to present, and then we take the back seat.
You think they don't know all
they
of these
could
things?
recommend to the president, advise him, yes, Mr. President, you've said this in the past, so I think we should have like a trust fund wherein we could make
Do you think they don't know these things?
realize. Yeah, so the president himself, because there was an issue that somebody says that when somebody were being investigated, they set them aside, like the former Minister of Basic Education, yeah, when they investigated for the rights. And now the ACC is investigating the Minister of Gender Affairs, and she's still in office. We were in a discussion the last time on 98, and the question was asked, why are you guys still having that person in office and you did not, you know, set that person aside? The excuse was the president appointed that person and he is the one, you know, that is supposed to set that person aside and not the commission. So what I'm saying is that that's the mandate of the president, but for the work that you do, because that's the more reason why people are thinking that the commission is cherry picking, you know, looking for if this person, then we'll take this action. If not this one, no. So
but
if they are saying it's the mandate of the president.
Based on advice, when it comes to Paran's situation in Parliament, ACC says though they could not get the evidence they needed, but they're still not convinced that Paran was unaware of his wife's status as a staff of Parliament, but they had left it up to the president to make a decision. What's your perspective on how that matter was handled? With all that happened publicly, the president still went ahead to get Paran to go back to work.
So, like I said, even Parliament has a role to play. The PSC is one, and also the administration of Parliament. They want to see Parliament being run in a transparent and accountable manner. So if we are having corruption issues within Parliament, you know, like that, all that once contributed to us being ranked the way we've been ranked from the last Corruption Perception Index. So I believe that the ACC, even though according to their mandate, that is what they should do, but they could recommend that, Mr. President, we are investigating and up to now we've not found whatever, but we are recommending that you set this man aside, you know, while the investigation is going on. Because the president maybe could set this one, which is not good. If you done this one for John, you do it also for Mary.
How realistic is this possibility that, given the context of our society, it's the president who appoints the anti-corruption commissioner. These people currently in office are also people who are the president's people. Many of them are SLPP people or people the president has been convicted that he needs to appoint. How realistic is it for the ACC to come up with a recommendation to say to the president, set Mr. A or Miss Y apart while we do this? Isn't it easier for the ACC to do that for opposition people than it is for the ACC to do it for people serving in the current government, where the president did the appointment of the commissioner and those other people serving in these capacities?
Right. So this is where integrity comes in, and independence. In as much as, according to our laws that we have now, our constitution, the president has these powers. We cannot reverse that because that's the way it is for now, to make those appointments and all of the things that it would do. But what we are saying, if the commission is supposed to be an independent commission, yeah? And they must carry out their functions with utmost integrity. And they should look at the bigger picture and not party, political sentiment or regional sentiment or whatever. So we are expecting the commission that no matter who is involved, they should uphold integrity and make sure they make the proper and the correct recommendation so that the people of Sierra Leone will see that we have the institutional will on the part of the Anti-Corruption Commission in fighting corruption in Sierra Leone. Let them make that recommendation and the president refuse to take action on that. But on their part, they'll say they've done what they are supposed to do. The president has the final say, right? So if he could adhere to the recommendation, if he could not, but yes, still, let them go a step further, being proactive. In this fight now, we need to be very much proactive, irrespective of whatever sentimental connections, you know, that you have.
Is it possible for your recommendation to be acted upon, given that the current ACC commissioner is not only very close to the president, but the president is his mentor?
Well,
and doing that could also set the president up to take actions that would put him in a tight spot. Is it realistic under the current?
Well, I don't think if a president takes action like that for somebody who's been investigated for being corrupt, setting the person aside, and he has done that in the past for other people. So he could do the same again. So making that recommendation, you see, I'm not looking
Is it signifying that the president has sacred cows?
Well, I'm not looking at the connection and that the Ben Kelfala has with president or whatever. What I'm looking at is a commissioner working in an independent anti-corruption commission that is supposed to uphold independence and integrity in the work that he's doing and make sure that he makes recommendation, you know, to the president in order to make the fight more robust and for people to see that the commission is really doing their job and that what they are doing is like translating into the lives of Sierra Leoneans.